So it is now my honour to introduce our headline keynote speaker in this session, Stewart Wallis, Executive Chair and co-founder of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. He is a global advocate for a new economic system that supports human and ecological well-being. He was awarded his O.B.E. for his services to Oxfam, and he has continued to make global contributions to social, economic and environmental justice. Too many to mention without detracting from his time. So please refer to the profile for Stewart and all of our speakers on the event page. Welcome, Stewart.
Thank you so much, Susan. And gosh, this has been such a beautiful beginning to any gathering. So huge thank you to Brian, Susan, Rick, Poona, and Prajna. I'm incredible, just so moving. And it's wonderful to be with you. I'm going to bring you a message of hope and love, and share a bit about how much is already happening and why we can be excited and energized by that. But first, a little bit of gloom. The root cause of a lot of the polycrises that Brian was talking about is our extractive and exploitative economic system. The way I characterize the current economic system is by using 4 U's. It's unsustainable, it's hugely unfair, it's very unstable, and it's making so many people unhappy, people not feeling either valued or valuable. And if you put it simply, we're running faster and faster as humans, burning up our planet, destroying other species, causing massive social problems, and not even making ourselves any happier. Now that's pretty stupid, isn't it? In fact, incredibly stupid. In fact, just the opposite, we're making ourselves more unhappy. But the good news, and I promise you that's the only bad news, the good news is the economic system, that's a human system. We created it, we can uncreate it, we can do something different. And furthermore, in the minority world, in the 20th century, humans changed the economic system twice, to Keynesianism with a bigger focus on health and education and government, role of the government mid-century, and to neoliberalism with the misplaced idea of liberty by talking about free markets and freedom of the individual in the later century. We can do it again, and it's happening. And what's also good is there's a growing awareness that what's needed is not just tweaks to our system, but system change. We need radical shifts, not just minor little changes. And there's a growing consensus about what's needed. You can find that when you listen to people in communities right across the world about what they want. And they say the same things. They want an economic system that meets people's fundamental needs before the wants of a few. They want a just distribution, not just of wealth and income, but also of time and power. They wanted a system whose purpose is the common good of all life. They want a system where people have some say and some control over their own lives and their own economy. And they want a system above all that doesn't just sustain the planet and other life, it regenerates it, and furthermore it reveres it, just exactly as Poona was talking, where we're in reverence and unity with all life and at peace with all life. There's many terms for such an economy, and they're growing up all over the place. We use the term wellbeing economy, but you can use the donut economy, a regenerative economy, Ubuntu, and there's many other terms. They're talking about the same thing and the same goals. But the key question isn't what, because there's a lot of consensus about that in many right across the world, but how do we make it happen? And what comes when you look at how system change happens, there's all sorts of things that are necessary, but the critical additional things you need for system change is you need radical collaboration. It's not just bottom up, it's not just top down, it's right across every level of the system. It's across every sector, and it's across all geographies. We need radical collaboration right across peoples and nations. That's what brings system change. And the second thing that brings it are powerful stories that speak to who we really are as humans and our relationship with nature. They speak to not just our heads, but our hearts and our souls. That's what's needed to change the system. And that's what's happening, starting to happen now. Now, about 5 years ago, 4 of us met, just 4 individuals, by a lake in Scotland. And we had this mad idea that we're going to try and set up an organization to help catalyze the changes I've just talked about. And it seemed absolutely mad, the idea that 4 individuals sitting by a Scottish lake, avoiding the midges, could change the economic system. Crazy. But 5 years later, we've just been amazed, exactly the seeds that Susan's been talking about, by what's happened. And it's very much happened beyond us rather than because of us. But at this point already, we've got 400 international organizations, including big ones like Greenpeace and Oxfam, part of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. We've got 20 national hubs or chapters, which are charities in their own right in several cases, and many more growing up all right across the world. And we're liaising terribly close with the donut economy groups. And so there's radical collaboration happening there. We've got thousands of individuals involved. We've got hundreds of academics now who've come part of this. And we've even got 6 governments who've committed to being a wellbeing economy government. And they include Canada, Iceland, Finland, Scotland, Wales, and New Zealand. And already the focus on a wellbeing economy, and a wellbeing economy, put really simply, is you set out to meet those goals straight away. You don't grow GDP and then spend huge amounts of money sorting out the problems you've caused in the first place. You have an economy that's just set out to achieve the things that humans want. And that's how you drive it. And it's far less wasteful, and it's far more joyful, and it's far more possible. So already you've seen in countries like New Zealand and Finland that had that approach a much better outcome of the coronavirus epidemic, because they were already talking about preparedness and prevention, and they were already taking a human-centered approach and bringing in wisdom from indigenous groups in their countries. You've seen a very different approach. Now, WEAll is not a movement itself, but we're a servant, a catalyst, a connector, a midwife, if you want, an amplifier to the movement and to the emerging movement. But what's really exciting is how much is bubbling up all over the place. And we're just one part of this. But I want to give you a real sense that things are changing. They're on the move. And what's needed now is similar types of organizations to ourselves in each of the areas, in health, in education, in democracy, in the human rights, in climate and biodiversity, who act as catalysts and midwives to all the organizations and all the change agents that are working there. So they bring about you start to get a seed of a movement that's global, not just about the economic system, but about changing fundamentally who we are and how we live together. And I can see that happening now. I'm quite old, but I actually think there's something terribly exciting happening. So I get out of bed most days now feeling very different than even a few years ago. And what vision might unite all these different groups? Well, I think the idea, and it comes originally from the East, but it bubbles up all over the place, of an ecological civilization is a possible one that might do that as a story that we're telling ourselves. Because it's an ecological civilization isn't just about how humans live together, but it's about our relationship with all life. And it's about the whole idea of not just talking about the common good of humans, but the common good of all life, the dignity of all life. And that's a pretty radical idea, but the seeds of it are there. And I think if we can create those stories, and those beautiful stories we've seen already that Susan's shown us are absolutely incredible. If we can keep presenting those art, we can keep telling that story of an ecological civilization, we can radically collaborate, then we will create the power and the love that will shift this system. So the final message is we can bring into being an ecological civilization where all beings flourish on a regenerated planet. This is vital, it's necessary, and it's entirely possible, and it's happening now. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Stewart. This is really inspiring, meaningful, and impactful, and truly gives us all reason for great hope. And thank you for reinforcing the messages of changing the story, radical collaboration, and engaging not just our heads, but our hearts and our souls. So thank you.